Welcome everyone to another 3DQ live stream. Apologies for starting a bit late today, but as you can see, we're in a very different setup. Not at the office anymore. Actually, we are, I guess, transitioning our office space now. So I'm here in my room. I'm joined by Lukas and Austin from RepRap Warehouse, and Steph's calling in with no camera, so she'll be the kind of omnipresent voice in the distance this during this stream. Yeah, so to open it up, we've got these guys from RepRap Warehouse. They're located in a neighboring province up here in Canada, just over in Alberta, and they're a 3D print shop. I'll let you guys introduce yourself more properly. And then, of course, I'm Mateo, joined by Steph on the phone, founders of 3DQ. And we're going to be having a bit of a chat about Quinly and how you guys have been using it for not only your demands, but also for your customers as well. Yeah, so I guess why don't we just jump right into it. If anyone has any questions, of course, I'll be watching chat and just feel free to jump in. But yeah, without further ado, why don't you guys introduce yourself and what RepRap Warehouse does?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having us on, guys. Obviously, an awesome opportunity to chat with you guys. But yeah, my name is Austin, like you said, from RepRap Warehouse over in Edmonton. And then I got with me.
I'm Lukas. I'm the technician here.
Yeah, so Lukas is the brains of the operations when everything else goes wrong. But yeah, we've been here since 2012, selling everything from filament, printers, parts, services, scanning, scanners, all sorts of different stuff. So we've been a little bit busy over the past couple of years building and growing. But yeah, we've been up to a whole lot lately with the Quinly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like more recently too, you guys have just been popping, especially with the ever since COVID started, really.
Yeah, it's weird because you didn't exactly expect it to go that way, but yeah, it's been getting busier and busier every day around here.
Cool. Yeah, I guess why don't we just jump into it? So, for context, we sent you you guys ended up getting one of the very first kits back in November, and since then we kind of got you up and running. We've gone through a whole bunch of software updates, and now you guys most recently have been using it for a couple of large orders. So maybe while I pull up some images of your setup on the screen here, yeah, tell everyone about what you've been using it for. What about Quinly appealed to you? Yeah,
absolutely. So the first things first is that the whole idea behind Quinly, the whole not having to peel your prints off yourself and have it go on its own, was already an intriguing idea to say the least. But after we kind of got a glimpse of what it was, and we talked to I think we started talking with Steph first or something, and yeah, from there we kind of jumped on the idea, said, hey, it looks great, let's try it out. And like you said, we had one of the first units, so we've been through a few different firmwares, and needless to say, although we had a few email chains and phone calls, we've been able to sort everything out, and now with the new firmwares, it's been flawless, really.
Yeah, absolutely flawless.
Yeah. So Lukas and I have been working on this one project for a customer. Although we can't tell you too much about it. It's basically a cylinder tube shape. And he wanted about 50, 60 of these things printed off. And obviously in the normal 3D printer setting, right, anything over 4 or 5 hours, you're looking at maybe 2 a day, right?
Right.
But yeah, with those numbers, we pulled out the Quinly. And
yeah, no problem. Honestly, like we had it running for how many days?
So I think the total was, so it was from the 5th to the 24th, 1st, 22nd. So
Yeah,
17
about
days or
17 days.
Yeah, 17 days and a couple failed prints.
Yeah, I
but,
think we had
like,
one failed print, and then one that started to fail, and we just restarted it because we're being overly picky. But out of
Fair enough.
let's say probably 65-ish prints
Yeah.
to have one fail, I was pretty happy with it.
And it really was just like,
And
you know, you click,
maybe
add in 60 prints and then you click print and there you go.
Yeah, it was that easy.
actually, I think you guys, it would be interesting to the audience to hear a bit about your failed print. I heard a little bit.
Yeah, we did talk about it before. I've got the image up of your setup.
So actually, yeah, I totally forgot about that. So I don't know if you could really tell, but on the other side of Lukas, there is actually a window. Obviously, we have the curtain drawn because past 4 o'clock here looks like midnight. But yeah, it was beside the window, and I think the weather was approaching probably about 25 below.
Yeah, it was minus 30 for a couple days.
Yeah,
but...
so needless to say, it was very cold.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the Quinly's right here, and the window right beside it. And I gotta say, I'm pretty certain that it had an effect on that because it was you get here in the mornings and the furnace hadn't quite kicked in yet, and there was some chilly times.
I've got a picture of it. You sent me a photo, and I pulled it up. It's like about a meter away from the window. At least it's a double pane window.
Even a foot. Call it a foot.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's quite close. So it's
and even with that, like that was our failed print, you know. So
yeah, I was gonna say we've had so many other printers and like similar locations, like close to the window, that it's hard to get more than a couple prints out without having a fail. So yeah, like I said, if you look at the percentage on that one, you can't help but smile.
How long were those cylinders? There are a couple in the picture that I'm showing right now. How long were the prints themselves?
Actually, you would know better than me.
I think probably the final G code is probably like 5.5 or so hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5 or 6 hours. Yeah. So yeah, 5 or 6 hours times, if I had to take a guess, 65, 70 was a lot of printing.
Yeah, it's about 400 hours. Altogether. So yeah, that's not too bad for fixing 2 fails. I'm glad it worked so well for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
These were
like I said, the latest rumor was the godsend.
Yeah, that was the fix. Yeah. These were Pet G too, right?
Yeah. So actually, this particular project actually went through a few different changes, and we started off with PLA and with some weaker settings, and then we take a look at it, and you know better what settings we changed to, but we switched over to PTG, and although sorry, go ahead.
Really, like both of them stuck great. Like, you know, like both of them functioned perfectly as if it was on
any other system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so,
which is I guess kind of the whole point to the Quinly, right? Like one of the things that we were that I won't say skeptical because we were pretty excited, but one of the things we were
I think it's fair to say skeptical because that's a lot of the response we get is skepticism.
Well, you know what? Like for something that's so different than anything else that's out there, I mean, you can't help but be like a little bit okay. Well, what really is it? You know, you can't help but ask yourself those questions at least a little bit.
Sure.
But especially when you see like the printer on the angle and the box under it. You're
thinking,
it's like what's going on here?
Yeah, well, what is this thing, right? But yeah. Well, yeah, I guess the skepticism kind of was there initially, right? But yeah, after obviously doing like some bed leveling, which is standard.
The Ender, we're running on an Ender V2, and it's completely stock. We opened the box, assembled it, and put the bed on. And we did the firmware, and then we started printing. And as soon as like you said, the bed is leveled, it works perfectly. So
yeah. So even with PTG was fine. Beautiful prints.
Do you guys run a lot of Pet G for these larger orders? Because I guess in our experience, the vast majority of our orders have been PLA, like, and people seem to be fine with it. Some of our larger order, like 4,000 parts or so, were all done in PLA. So I'm curious, like, what, I guess over there, maybe it's colder, maybe PLA gets too brittle.
Well, you know what? It's kind of funny because a lot of the people come in and they ask for nylon, right?
Yeah, of course.
But the chances of me printing nylon are pretty slim. So I don't even bother trying to enter that realm, right?
Yeah.
So I say, okay, well, what about PLA? Why does PLA not work, right? And a lot of times they say, oh, well, I need this, oh, I need that, oh, I need this, oh, I need that. It needs to be more application-based type stuff, right?
Yeah.
And although personally I think PLA works for about 80-90% of print jobs out there, PETG covers pretty well the rest of it, in my opinion, anyways.
I mean, really, there's a couple of factors, and it's weatherproof, like UV and water and that kind of thing. I mean, PLA kind of doesn't work with water sometimes, and then temperature, like as soon as you pour boiling water on PLA, or even tap water, you know, it just gets and it doesn't work. So you leave it in your car, it doesn't work, you know. So
we actually use a fair bit of PETG. It's admittedly it's probably one of my favorite materials to work with, but we kind of spend a little bit more time than the average bear dialing in our printers and getting them set up, so we might have a little bit easier time than some. But
yeah, but that is super important, especially with with the production system too, because like any time savings or just less hassle with post processing gets multiplied by your entire volume of parts, right? So
oh yeah, absolutely. Like there's kind of a good example of that. We have one of our customers that does all sorts of different applications for his prints, and a lot of them are you know on boats and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like if he's doing say a dozen parts for a boat, and they have to be you know on a boat in the sun for 12 hours, 16 hours, or whatever it is, right? Or well, depends on where you are, how much sunshine you get, but like you could easily start, you know, maybe not melting, but at least softening some of the PLA parts. But yeah, PTGs,
Well, we learned that during the pandemic. I actually sent some face shields to my parents in Reno, Nevada. In the summer, they left it in their car in 39-degree weather, 39 Celsius for those listeners who are not, who are maybe in the U.S. is very hot.
Yeah.
And a car is known to get, you know, well over 50, 60 degrees Celsius. You're into the hundreds and 110, 120 degrees Fahrenheit easily in hot sunshine. And the PLA wasn't too happy. Let's just say that. It didn't melt.
Did it work? What happened with it?
Yes, it no longer fit a human head.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of alien-shaped head it would fit, but it certainly wouldn't have fit a human anymore.
Yeah.
So it worked pretty significantly. But that was also very extreme, because I did look at the studies around how hot does a car get in 39-degree weather, and it literally it's up 120, 130, like it gets up there and really fast. And it was in that car all afternoon, so it was baking, but it didn't melt either. I mean, yes, it worked, but it didn't melt. So depending on the shape that you have, the PLA might have been still okay. It just wasn't good for a face shield.
Yeah.
That being said, though, going back to nylon, we actually did do some tests with nylon. Okay. So our farm is all Ender 3s, just the basic version.
Okay.
Got 51 of them here. But we were doing some experimenting with nylon, and the vapor bed and the Quinly system in general does actually work with nylon.
Okay.
But the Ender 3 is not a very friendly printer for Nylon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's completely open.
I mean, I was gonna say, you use an enclosure for that, or how do you go about that?
We did a small part in the open, and it got pretty good adhesion force. I think in that we were using a luggage scale to test it, and I think we have a series of videos on our
Right.
Instagram with different materials we tested, and despite like this tiny part, it's about 9 square centimeter footprint. Despite it having like warped on every single corner, it actually stayed stuck pretty good.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was surprising, and you can see when you pulled it off, like it was probably half the actual area was still flat.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the force we measured I think was 11 kilos of pull laterally, and that's about the same as what we get with I think PLA. But it was so strange, like it just makes you think, how strong is the actual warping force on the Nylon? And obviously like on an Ender, the conditions are far from ideal. Like it was in an open office, like probably at night too, and we have single pane windows in that room, so it's probably like 18, 17 degrees C, and the bed had to be a 135 for it to stick well.
Jeez.
So you've got this like extreme temperature gradient across your tiny part, and the bed too. One of our engineers, Steven, modified it so that the Ender 3 bed could get up to like one.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my next
140.
question. How in the world did you get to 135?
Yeah. It was actually, the mod is so cheap too. It's like plumbing tape, I think it, and aluminum tape, the duct tape, and I think it cost like $25, and we were able to get up to 135 pretty consistently. 100 was not a problem with that bed. Yeah, so it was really weird though. We were testing nylon, we were testing polycarbonate, we were testing what was that other high? We were testing different types of nylon too. Like there's this really flexible PC TPE that Tallman sells, and it's like stuff that you would never imagine trying to print on an Ender. And surprisingly, nylon didn't work out so great because it's open, but things like the polycarbonate were actually really, really good. Steven printed some parts that spanned the entire print surface without any warping on the polycarbonate. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see, like with this bed, you can actually start pushing the limits of the Ender if you want to into these more exotic materials. But yeah, I don't know. We haven't done any like giant orders of polycarbonate parts, so I would want to now that we know we can.
I was gonna say I would be hesitant to do it on almost all of our printers, but but now you make me want to try it.
Test it out. I'm curious to see what you guys end up with. We were using the Polymaker polycarbonate, and no warping. Yeah, it worked fine.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to maybe move it away from the window first, but
yeah. 135 to -40 is gonna put a bit of stress on the part.
Big difference.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess in terms of like having worked with the Quinly, you've done this bigger order on it, and I know you've printed some other stuff. How do you find the workflow changes when compared to doing orders on the other printers that you've got in-house?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
I think as soon as, like, I mean, you spend a little more time tuning your G code because you know you're gonna use the exact same thing over and over again, and then as soon as that's done, you upload it, and you almost forget it.
Yeah, so I think that's actually a really good point, because like, yeah, you do have to make sure that that file is the right one. You don't want to print the wrong one 25 times or something like that, right? But as soon as you get that design and those settings dialed in, it's off to the races. So I think the biggest difference is really like prep instead of trial and error, right?
Yeah, totally.
We get a lot of customers in here that are like, oh, well, you know, I've been printing for a couple months and this is happening and this is happening. But it's like, yeah, you just got to kind of keep trying and see what works, right? Like every printer behaves differently, and sometimes that's just that. But I feel like the Quinly helps kind of take away one more aspect of trial and error and adds another aspect of, you know, just make it happen type stuff, right? So.
Yeah, definitely the not having to touch your machine means that you're not accidentally decalibrating it between prints.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
less chances to chances to harm yourself from
yes, stab yourself with a spatula. Yeah, for sure.
You don't apply your hairspray and your glue stick and then stab yourself with a spatula every time, and then
we've heard some pretty crazy stories from customers. So we try to stay away from that as much as possible. And realistically, the Quinly's one step further away from manually doing all that kind of stuff.
Stabbing yourself, yeah. That's one of the key value props of the kit. Don't stab yourself anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why there's not a sticker on those spatulas saying to watch out, but
yeah, I know.
I didn't design that part, so I don't know.
Yeah. What? What kind of? So, given that you have like a pretty big customer base and they come in and they talk to you, like what are the problems that they are generally running into with their machines?
I gotta say a little bit of everything. We because we have customers from, you know, I want to get a printer for my son and daughter to start doing fun little knickknacks and learn about sort of designing and stuff, to all the way to people that are like, oh yeah, I need all of these printers and I need them all to work absolutely flawlessly because they're going into my shop where they need to be used as a production tool, right? So yeah, we've had everything from a heatsink snapped in two. That was a funny one. That was a good one.
Twice.
Yeah. We've had that happen two times. He's actually one of our funnier customers. So, I hope he's watching. but we've had everything from that to, you know, the good old can't stick it to the bed to, all sorts of different stuff. We actually have a few printers right now that have little probes that are just snapped right off. We got everything from everything in terms of blobs. We've got at least 4 different kinds of and sizes of blobs just in the shop right now. But yeah, I think a lot of the issues is kind of like the basics.
I mean, the majority comes in and they're like, they have all these issues and they come in and they look at the forms and the forms tell them to, you know, calibrate their firmware and do the VREF and do all this kind of stuff, when really they just need to level their bed well.
Yeah.
That's the big problem, right? And so if they have the fundamentals down and if they have a little bit of the basics, that
100%. Yeah, I gotta agree with that, because a lot of the stuff that we teach people, it's not rocket science, right? Like I mean, I like to think I'm a genius sometimes, but but most of the time it's pretty straightforward stuff that, you know, you just learn over time through printing, and, you know, like I said, kind of back to that trial and error thing, right? But unfortunately, I don't get to send a lot of that advice to our Quinly customers, because usually it just works a little easier.
Yeah.
Joking when I say unfortunately, obviously, but like a lot
they
of
bug you less.
Straightforward. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it gives me more time to do live streams with you guys, so I'm not too upset.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's like it's a lot of the fundamentals, right? Because getting it stuck to your bed is kind of like step one, right? Like your first layer, it's step one. And a lot of people still have a little bit of issues with that, and it is what it is. A lot of people are getting into it now, right? So it's becoming a lot more available, that's for sure.
Totally.
Yeah, I think
like think 10 years ago, you think somebody would be grabbing a printer with a Quinly and a totally automated setup where you just hit go and 15 of them just pop out at the end of the week or whatever? Oh,
I mean, I was a kid getting into it 10 years ago, and I went to Home Depot and I bought some threaded rods, and bought the board and put it all together, you know.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way for sure.
Totally. Yeah, I remember shopping for threaded rods at Home Depot, and then all of them are bent, unusable.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have that exact same memory. It's much easier now to get into it, and yeah, I think a lot of people, like, because I'm always talking to our customers as well. A lot of people running the kits are quite surprised by how much just not having to touch it improves the reliability. And we've noticed this on our production system too. Like, whenever someone is tinkering around with the machine, it like, you can totally screw it up, or you'll do something your way and then the next person won't understand what you've done, and so they don't set it up.
We ran into that today. We ran into that exact situation.
Right.
So we started a print yesterday, and I'm throwing him right under the bus right now. But
Okay.
he started a print yesterday.
Yeah.
And we went to go restart it today because, with our luck, we ran out of filament halfway through the print after we'd gone home.
Mm-hmm.
But so we go to restart it in the morning, and Lukas wasn't in until about noon or so, and we're like, where in the world is this file? No SD card. So we did it over Octoprint. So unfortunately, it took me time just to figure that out. But but it's like, even just from one print to the next, right? Like you said earlier, you could easily just bump something or nudge something, and funny enough, a lot of our customers, even though they know generally what they're doing, sometimes do that, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously it's an accident, it's an error, but it happens. So
yeah, it's go ahead, Steph.
I think you have a good point too in terms of even trying to find files. I mean, one of the big challenges with sort of what I call traditional printing is that, you have to find every file that you want to print, and then you got to load it and all the rest of it. Whereas with Quinly, because the files are all there, and you just, it's just like a document printer. You just literally look for your file name, pick the number you want, and it does it, right? There's no kind of hunting around, USB,
100%.
So I think that aspect, because you wouldn't have to know where the previous person stored their file, because Quinly has it already. As long as it's printed it, you already got it.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's kind of exactly how this project ran down, because like I said, Lukas, being the brains of the operation over here, he he dialed in all the settings, got it all set up for us, and he set it up through the Quinly, so we just uploaded it right to the site there, and put it through. Said I need X amount, maybe like a dozen or so to start, and again, like the morning that it came to the end of the 10 or 12 or whatever he put in, I was like, wait a minute, shouldn't the file just be right on the thing? And obviously, took me a minute because it was in the morning, but
of course.
But you just go on, the file's right there. You just boom, 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 and you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of the beauty of it, right? It's not rocket science. It's super available. It's super right there in front of you, and it's easy to use. Like, can't go wrong.
The ideal kind of workflow that we're trying to set up with the software is like that drive on the Quinly itself is like your production drive, and so because you do still, like, if you've got a brand new model or some crazy model that someone wants, you have to iterate. Like, what's nice about the Quinly, which we can talk about, is that because it's your printer, you don't really have to come up with all new settings to use it, but you still have to, like, if it's a brand new model, you have to sometimes iterate. And but what's nice is then once you've done that, you just leave it in the drive. And something that we've got on our production system, which will eventually be coming, is when you connect up a whole bunch of printers, just having a single drive that you can dispatch to any of the printers on the network is super. I mean, we found it super handy. Like, if we've got, I guess, in that room, between 36 and 45 printers, depending on when, connected up to that drive, not having to go and copy the file to every single SD card, it's it's a little bit nice. Like,
Yep.
let alone click print and everything, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about that is like we obviously sell more than just enders, right? So we have, even just in Creality, some of them use an SD, some of them use a micro SD, and then we have stuff like
Right.
like the Dremels and MakerBots that have like USBs, and we have like any memory stick you could possibly think of. We have a printer that runs off of it, right?
Get the
And
compact
so it's like-
flash, like
Yeah.
Well, exactly, right? Like,
floppy
like
disk
one of them
printer.
doesn't have a floppy disk insert.
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
But it's like sometimes I'm doing a print, like obviously before the Quinly, and I need 6 of these, and the guy needs them, kind of ASAP.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, put this one on an SD, put this one on a micro SD, put this one on a USB,
Yeah.
put this one. Oh wait, is that a USB or is that a micro SD? Oh, and I'm like, oh, damn it!
Right.
I'm running around and trying to find them, and
Yeah,
just
it
trying
can
to
be
find the cards.
it can be painful. Like
It's rough.
before we had our network set up, we were running some prints off of SD. Back when we had like just got all the new printers and we were testing them. And the worst thing was that you'd make an update to your file, but then every other printer in the farm would have like the old version of the file. And if you weren't diligent, you might end up with the old version on a couple of them. And yeah, that ended up like we ended up wasting hours sometimes printing the wrong model.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you said you had like 50 some printers. Could you imagine having you just gotta tweak the smallest little thing, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta go start 50 of them again.
Yeah, it's not. It was super inefficient. Like, because either you do that or you print on one and have the 50 sit idle until you've got your file.
Yeah, which is not exactly efficient.
Also not efficient. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is pretty handy.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I like the best about the Quinly is basically that, right? Like everything is just that easy, right? But
yeah, and going forward too, that's kind of the idea behind the design will be like there is a lot of really complicated stuff happening in the background that Quinly manages. Like it processes your G-code files, and manages the actual bed release and that automation as well. But you don't have to see any of that, and that's just part of what makes it, what makes it really consistent. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you can just do that with glass, and it's like, well, you can, but for certain parts, and then you have to tune the G code just right. Because I'm not gonna lie, like when I was first working on this, I was testing like part removal on glass back 4.5 years ago now. That was like the first iteration, and people had done that. But then the amount of work it took me to like, okay, a small part is different from a big part, is different from like a part that covers the entire glass bed. It was just painful, and like I guess if you're printing the same exact thing over and over again and not planning to change, then it could be fine to put in the work tuning that. But the idea with the Quinly is it's like really a one size fits all, where I guess all sizes fit one print bed.
A little bit backwards of the usual saying, but
a little bit backwards, but like you don't have to care anymore about whether you're printing something really tiny or something with a weird footprint or something with a massive footprint, something tall, something that's only like 5 layers tall. It's all set up to process it and to work. Yeah, so I think that's something that a lot of people who have bought the kit are starting to realize too. Like there's really very little in terms of like setting up G-code is setting up G-code, but you don't have to worry about setting it up for automation. And then because it's the same printer you've been using this whole time, you're not going to have to redo all of your files. Like a lot of comparisons we get is with belt printers, and I think belt printers are great. They give you the infinite C, but because they're 45 degrees, you do have to reslice all of your like your digital inventory basically, and it's a different machine, so you need new profiles. Whereas with the Ender 3, or at least with the Quinly, any sort of automation related changes, the Quinly does the processing to take care of that, and you can pretty much use your old profiles the same way. The only thing that people have changed is maybe like bed temperature and hot end temperature sometimes, but that's a completely different story from having to change like your entire settings to work on a 45 degrees, like get a specialized slicer for that, right? So it is different in that way. Like switching over to the system is quite, or we tried to make it as painless as possible. Like it should feel pretty familiar, just that you're doing less work.
Completely. I mean, it's almost on our end. It's like the same as a normal ender, other than
the fact that it handles itself.
Yeah.
One good point that I wanted to bring up, just because you mentioned like switching from this part to that part to this part to that part, is a lot of our customers love printing the most complex designs with 67 different parts that are all different shapes and sizes, and
of course
you assemble them together, and all of a sudden you got like a fully functional Iron Man suit. You can go to to an altitude of 200 meters, or you know what I mean? Like they really and don't get me wrong, as much as I would love to be able to do that, I do not have the patience for some of that stuff. but yeah, like if you're doing something like that where there's I've actually seen some in the 50, 60, 70 parts, right? And yeah, they're a little bit on the extreme side, right? But even something like 20, 30 parts, right? You're going to tell me you're going to sit there through 30 different G codes and adjust them all? Not very quickly, right? But with something like the Quinly, you just go, okay, I need these. If it's 100 G codes, line them all up. Line up 30, line up 40, and
you could do 3 suits at once if you wanted to, and it would be just as painless, like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need a really big roll of filament, but that's
that's true.
Other than that, you're good to go. But
we recently ran a project, Mateo. I think you can talk about the Urban Impact project, because that was exactly the point. And maybe just describe the parts for people, because I think that one would have cost. With traditional printing, it would have been like thousands of dollars just in labor.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull up a photo too. But it was a site. It was like a plant model for a recycling plant, and I think it ended up having over. I'm trying to remember the number Richard gave me. I think it was like over 100 parts. And most of them were entirely unique. Like we built it from this drawing that they gave us. Like I can't imagine. Well, I guess you would still have to slice everything, and that's fine. But like imagine having to kind of set up the bed for the different lengths of parts, or if you were trying to do like a homebrew automation thing, like setting up the settings to automate all those parts, like because we would have really long parts that would go from corner to corner on the bed, like conveyor belts. And then we'd have some really tiny footprint parts. Like we actually printed this metal scaffolding that was holding up some machinery, and they would have like, it'd be like 4 squares that were half a centimeter wide, and then it would kind of build up that way. And it was ridiculous. Honestly, it was like that project. I think if we weren't running automated machines, like it would have been ridiculous. And I mean, to give you a reference too, I think the design on that project, so overall took us like 2.5 months, and the design was most of the time.
Wow.
The printing only took, I think, if you add up all of Richard's days, it's like about a week and a half. And this was not a small plant model either. It's like around 100 parts, and the entire model was, I think, about 1 meter long by 0.5 meter wide, with all these like interlocking conveyor belts. I'll try to find a picture and put it on the stream, and I'll send it to you guys after. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's like a mind-boggling project.
Yeah,
but I think that's sorry guys, I think that's the amazing thing from what you guys have told us about your customer base. And I think even from the first time I talked to Steve about it, your folks, a lot of your folks like to do large volumes, really complicated things, you know, that can take weeks and weeks and weeks if you have to remove each part, reset, you know, be it the printer. So I'm hoping that over the next, you know, couple of months, we're going to get some cool photos from some of your guys are doing, or you're doing for them, one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking on the fact of, you know, complicated prints that take forever, we one of our customers runs the automotive or automotive engineering department at Nate here.
Yeah.
And he's printing like actual fully functional transmissions, right? And he gives them out to his students, and you know, obviously for more tactile learners, it is super awesome because they get to actually handle these things and see how they react, right? Well, normally you can't exactly just take a transmission out of a car and start just turning the gears and wait until something breaks, right? So like he does prints that are forever long, and he's like, sometimes they fail, and you're like, what do? You know, you're so many hours into it that if it goes right, you're like, yes, I won the lottery, and then, and if it doesn't, you're halfway in tears.
Yeah.
But yeah, so stuff like that. I mean, I think I'm gonna be able to convince them. If you're watching,
get ready.
Yeah, but yeah, I stuff like that. I don't see why the Quinly wouldn't be, in my opinion, the best option for that kind of stuff, right? Because, like I said, he's doing gears, right? So when he's printing them, they're flat, but they have a big footprint, right? So they take up,
and that takes time.
Yeah, and because it's at a university, you know, you can't be there exactly 24/7. So.
Oh, we got a bunch of questions in
far away.
chat. Hold on one sec. Okay, we're back. So somebody's asking, can you talk about what's coming up next with features? That's Henry. Yeah, I can discuss. There's actually an update coming out quite soon this week. We're just fixing some last minute bugs. But we'll be adding, there are a couple of updates coming out in the next few months, but in terms of what we're working on, this week we'll be adding support for Simplify 3D, because a lot of people like to use that slicer, especially in education. So that's being thrown in. There are a whole bunch of bugs that some people have encountered. Very specific ones though, which is good. It seems to only affect one or two people at a time, which has been actually quite relieving. Like nothing that affects the core system.
Sure.
So at least more recently. So there's going to be a whole ton of bug fixes. We managed to also, a lot of people like to use the BL Touch with this system, and maybe we can talk about that later in terms of reliability. But Creality has like a BL Touch kit, and the firmware that they provide for it is it's a binary. So we had to we spent last week figuring out the settings for it. So now that people who have bought that kit can actually use the kit on their Quinly, they don't have to do this strange wiring thing that we were suggesting to them. So and that actually a lot of the work we're doing right now is related to, so we got a whole bunch of kits out there, and everyone, especially on an Ender 3, has completely like different mods on it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the fixes and things we've been adding up till now basically has been, how do we support all of these different mods and all these different setups? And then what we've got coming up next after this is we're working on the camera feed. Like that's the number one thing people have been asking for.
That is exciting. I'm
yeah.
excited for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out a way to do it with very low resource usage, because we're also looking at, we've been doing some testing on running multiple printers with a Pi, or running on like a much lower spec Pi or lower spec device. That's something that's kind of been ongoing, because of course we want to make the kit as accessible as possible. And then the other thing that we've kind of got in the hopper is the bed leveling visualization. So the way it's kind of set up is, or how we're planning to do it, is not only visualize the bed, but actually take snapshots over time, and eventually work that into something where, like, if there's a noticeable drift over time, it can actually warn you before the bed gets too unlevel. Because yeah, like, you want to protect the bed, obviously. Otherwise, if you scratch it up, it's not going to work as good. So yeah, and it's also just good because it decreases your failed prints. Like, if we notice, okay, and with this trend and like 5 or 10 prints, you're going to want to re-level. We can look at that and notify people, or have the printers pause itself, stuff like that. So a lot of the features now that are being worked on are actually things that people in the Discord like have been requesting. I'm trying to think of anything else that's kind of big that's coming up near term. There's like a lot of kind of stuff in the works behind the scenes as well that I don't know if I can announce just yet.
No.
Yeah, no. Steph says no. The omnipresent voice saying no.
Well, I know. I think that works better. I like that better. Just, I need a voice modulator. No.
Yeah, you need to put some big like reverb on your call.
Boom. Right, exactly.
Just in the distance, yeah. But that's kind of the stuff we've got next up, and yeah, we're kind of building out the software and of course addressing everyone's bugs, and would like to say thank you to all the people who have been actually getting software updates early for feedback too. That's actually been awesome, because yeah, we only have so many printers in-house, right? So if we can test on different printers, different users, different setups, like it's super helpful to make sure that when we do push something out, it's not doesn't immediately break anything we can foresee.
Yeah.
And I have to say, the number of variables that we've come across, particularly in Ender 3, and that's part of the reason people get an Ender 3, is because you can mod a lot.
It's a very inexpensive base, which is nice.
Exactly. Like, so it's interesting because a portion of our audience kind of says, well, I get an Ender because it's cheap, and I don't want to spend any money on it. But the bigger portion of our base, I would say, says the reason I get an Ender is it's a good, solid base that I can add anything to, and I can make it whatever I want. And I think there are kind of two views of the Ender 3, but part of the reason we started with it is because you can do so many mods. So when Mateo said a few minutes ago about, like, we got a whole bunch of bug fixes, the interesting thing with that is a lot of it's addressing very unique features for unique users. As you said, maybe 1 or 2 people have had a problem, but we want to fix those too, because we want this to be a universal solution for people so they can do what they want to do with their printers. And I would say probably our most enthusiastic users are people who want the printers to do something for them. They do not want to be fiddling with the printers. They really, they're doing something else. They're selling a product, they're using they're using the prints for something. Maybe they're doing research or whatever. But they're not, they don't want to hang out with the printer. That's not their passion.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could throw something in there, I think another thing too about the Ender 3s is that, like, if you want to talk about tried and true printers, I mean, how many Ender 3s have there been sold in the last, however long, right?
Yeah.
Like there's got to be, I don't even know. There's
probably millions.
There's a lot of them out there, right? So
yeah.
You want to talk about a printer that's kind of run its test to the fullest. I mean, I don't think anything really even stands next to the Ender 3, really.
Yeah.
Well, I heard they're selling 100,000 a month now.
That's pretty incredible.
I'm pretty sure it's right near that number. If I were to take my best guess at it.
Yeah. And
yeah, I think that's what I heard, which is, that's insane, because I just recently saw, I think it was Prusa said they're getting to 100, their first 100,000 or something.
Yeah.
So, like Prusa's been around how long, and they're just hitting 100,000, and Creality's doing 100,000 Ender 3s a month. That doesn't include,
That's crazy.
all of their other machines.
Yeah. I can't help but imagine somebody at Creality just laughing at that fact a little bit, but
yeah.
I know Creality, and that's kind of one of the reasons that personally that I like Creality so much, is that like an Ender 3, you have any problem with an Ender 3, you don't even have to fully Google it, right? You just say it loud enough in front of your phone, they'll start Googling it for you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you're shouting at your printer, Siri already knows what to look up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like you start typing in Ender, and it's like Ender 3 not sticking to the bed plate, and you're like, yeah.
There it is.
But yeah, no, like I said, the most tried and true printer in my mind.
Oh, Jack said in chat, he said Prusa hit 100K a while ago. Do you know what the date on that was? I think it was actually quite a while. It might have been like a year ago. But still, the fact that I wonder what they're selling now, because 3D printing seems to have quite exploded during COVID.
I do remember that being a little while ago, because I don't know if you were if you talked to Steve about this, but Steve showed me an article, and it was like so somebody was writing this, and Steve and I admittedly couldn't help but laugh a little bit, but they were like, oh, Prusa celebrates its 100,000th Prusa machine made.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole article was about, like, is there a market for further 3D printers?
Right.
Yeah. And we couldn't help but laugh. I'm like, do you even understand how many are out there?
Yeah.
Like, there's like, by now there's gonna be millions of printers out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean?
Like, yeah. So I couldn't help but have a decent laugh at the expense of that article.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for the ones that wrote that.
They sold all the printers that there are. That's it. Pack it up.
That's exactly it, right? Like, for example, I mean, we know people all the time that have a dozen printers, right?
Yeah.
At least, right? So I couldn't imagine there being any stop to this anytime soon. I mean, especially considering stuff like the Quinly's coming out. You know what I mean? Like, there's still that another wave of technology that's not even been explored, really, right? So something like the Quinly is it's almost like the next, I don't want to say revolution, but almost like the next era of 3D printing, right? It brings it to almost a manufacturing point, which is ridiculous.
That's and actually it's kind of interesting from our side. In December, and I think at the end of November, we did a whole bunch of live streams with Etsy stores, and we were talking to them about how they were set up, because they are that person that owns between 5 and 15 3D printers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. They're either all doing Creality Enders, or some of them are doing Prusa, but they tend to have quite a bit fewer Prusa machines than the guys with the Enders. I think just because of the cost. But what's really interesting is, and something that I think Quinly really solves for them, is their issues is, especially over COVID, they've had more time at home. They're working on these side businesses. And the demand has completely outstripped their manufacturing capacity. And so their first thought is, oh, let me get another printer. So then I'll have 2 times capacity. But then what a lot of them didn't realize, and like what we kind of discovered through those the streams and just conversations with them offline was a lot of people don't think about, if you get a second printer, you also are doubling your labor requirement for running your print farm.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's where, for those types of guys like Quinly is really, really useful, is because your one machine can now run 24/7, and based on our calls, on average, that's like 1.5 to 3 times increase in capacity. So you're getting, let's say on average, with a Quinly, it's equivalent to getting a second machine. But not only that, your labor requirement drops by about 90%.
I was gonna say, not only does it not double, but it actually would go down.
Yeah, it goes down a ton too, because that trial we did where we printed 900 face shields only took Karen 3 hours to do that over the course of a week. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, like theoretically,
it was actually not even 5 days. It was like just the 5th day was when we delivered the 900.
That's when we finished, right? Wow. So like theoretically, he could be running 10 times more machines if he was working 6 hours a day on that for 5 days. I guess even more than that per week. But like, like a single person running that is kind of that's like the labor difference, right? It's a huge drop in labor.
I think that's actually a great point, because like a lot of our customers are, like I said, we get everything from the guy that's getting a 3D printer to see what it's all about to the guy that's using it in his business, like in his shop, right? But like the people that are using it more professionally, the prosumers, if you will, they can't give that extra labor away, right? Like that's not something that they can even afford, let alone is an option, right? So it's not even like another printer solves their problem. It sort of halfway solves one problem, but creates a whole other one, right?
Yeah, you're sacrificing your time for the extra printing.
Yeah, exactly, right? And if you're running it in a shop, right, like just for example, right, if I had Lukas printing a million things, and I had instead of getting him a Quinly, I got him another under 3 or whatever, he has to go run that. But it's like, but then he has more work to do, so he doesn't get the other stuff done.
Right? Exactly.
Repairing printers, for example, right? Yeah. So especially in a more professional setting, that labor is invaluable.
Yeah, and it's actually like labor is one of the biggest cost contributors to your end parts too.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you're doubling your overhead every single time, you're not actually being any more efficient with your production. You're just sacrificing more of your time. You're making more parts at the same price, so it's not scaling down. Whereas with the Quinlys, you're making more parts with far less of your time. And so like even applying it to one machine, you already see a massive decrease in cost. But now as an individual, your capacity to run more machines increases as well. So now your ceiling for how much you could be earning from your print farm drastically increases, because
I was gonna say, like, even when you were saying like your capacity goes from 1.5 to 3% or three times.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, if you include like what that guy's actual time is worth, I would say it's got to be 10 times that, right? Like,
right. Yeah, because it's not like a minimum wage guy that's doing that. It's a proper engineer who's running these. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're gonna pay this engineer to go start prints. It's like, well, you kind of have him doing something else, but hey,
yeah.
If something needs to get done, I guess it needs to get done.
And that brings up a really good point, because what we've found is by having our guys spend more time dialing in the part to remove support, to remove the need for a wrap, to reduce post-processing or eliminate it, to, suddenly that, 10 hours they would have spent over the next 2 weeks scraping and whatever, they can spend 4 hours dialing in the G code, and all of a sudden you don't have post, you don't have support, you don't have, you can get this part super efficient, and you can get your print time down. And so now you're putting through more disproportionately more because your human labor is doing something valuable, not scraping parts and clearing a bed and loading prints, and which is really a waste of a talented person's time, right, Lukas?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I was gonna say he does do a lot of printing, so
yeah, but it really is a waste of talent. Like there's a lot of other things you can do, and I think that kind of goes double for people who are batching their prints, because batching seems to take a lot of time. There's a lot of failure. There's a lot of stringing. You don't have to batch anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can. I mean, the point is it's automated. Just let it go.
Yeah,
and
it gives you, introduce a lot of risk into the system if you batch.
I'd like to bring up a quick story about batching prints. When we started this project, Lukas said, well, just out of habit, puts 5 on the build plate. I said I don't know if it's a great idea, but Lukas is the brains of the operation. I'll let him do it, right?
Yeah.
And the next morning, and this was the second fail other than the one that was minus $1 million outside. That was the only other fail. Is he put 5 on the build plate and it strung over and started causing issues.
I think it knocked one over or something.
Yeah,
something.
Yeah. And then you lose the whole thing.
And it just snowballed, right? It was one tiny little thing that would have actually been fine.
Yeah.
And because some unnamed character, batched 5 onto the build plate, it didn't go so well. Sorry, that's the second time I throw you on the bus.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. But
yeah, it is true. Like it's a lot of risk, and something we've seen too. Like I don't know, some act of God causes a print to fail. If you're doing one at a time, it'll still, like, depending on how it fails, it can still auto clear and then print the next one fine too.
Yeah.
Which is, it sometimes happens, but it's much better than like if you get a failure of 5 prints.
Yeah.
There's a question in chat, Henry and Nelanora ask if we're planning to do it for other printers. Yeah, and the answer is definitely yes. We're working on actually a couple of other printers right now as well. So that's some of the unnamed software work that Steph has told me not to talk about. Secret, top secret. But yeah, it's definitely.
You can probably guess some of it.
Yeah. If you're in a Discord, you'll know, like, a couple probably.
Yeah. One other thing I just wanted to mention before I forgot about it with the automation and the expansion, because this again is something we learned from our own users. One of our fellows had 8 printers. He still had a huge backlog, needed to add a couple more printers, but he said he had reached capacity for the electrical in his house. He did not. He just couldn't add more printers, and we absolutely say, like, no fire hazards, right? Don't be overloading your circuits, but that's something else people don't think of as a limiting factor. Whether it's your house or you've got a small office or a shop or whatever, you can only attach so many printers. I mean, they do.
Yeah, even at our office,
power.
it's an issue. It's an issue. Like,
and it takes up space. So.
Yes.
Yeah, especially for anybody that's not doing it in, like, a more professional setting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for example, a lot of our customers do, like, cosplay stuff, and it's just at home, right? Like you could imagine especially if somebody's in like an apartment or something.
One's
right?
on the kitchen counter. There's one in the bathroom. There's one on the stairs.
I'll show you around my room right now. I've got printers everywhere. Got one on the floor here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't say I've ever quite seen one in the bathroom, but I'm sure crazier things have been done. But yeah, like, you got to imagine, right? Like, you don't have a space for all this stuff, and like you're saying, like you were talking to, like, a bunch of Etsy guys, right? Well, if they're at full capacity with their 4 printers and they don't have room for another one, like, what are you gonna do, right? There's limiting factors, but they're missing the the key element of what the Quinly brings, right? So
Yeah, it's definitely about optimizing or squeezing that extra capacity out of your existing machines rather than, adding a whole bunch of undue burden onto yourself and sleepless nights. And
well, it's capacity, getting more capacity out of yourself too. I mean, a lot of people look at Quinly and they say, oh, well, I could just buy another printer, but I keep saying that's not the point of automation. The point of automation is you don't have to do that stuff anymore. You go do some fun stuff, right? You do you, Quinly will do the print.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. Like, for example, the what was it, 17-day print that we did? I mean, how many times did we touch the printer? Maybe 3 times to switch filament?
Yeah.
And then 1 fail. So 4 times total in 17 days. I mean,
I calculated it. It's basically about 90. It's over 90% uptime if they were 6-hour prints.
6 hours and maybe like the cooling time in there too, probably.
Oh, true. I didn't add that. So it's about 96% uptime that you guys are running at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
that's pretty good.
Come on.
Not to pat myself on the back. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, can we just take a moment?
Thank you. Yeah.
Especially since the average uptime in manufacturing is 65%. I think, Mateo, you can take a bow at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
100%.
One of the other interesting.
Not just me though. There's like, the whole engineering team working on this all the time.
Okay, well,
this is true. We have an amazing team, and the engineering team, the software team, like they work full out. They're so efficient, it's insane. Which is why we do encourage people to come onto the Discord community channel, because the more everybody can chat back and forth, the more kind of stuff we get done, because the guys hear about issues or whatever, they go, oh yeah, we could do this, how about if we fix that, So that's something we really, really encourage, as opposed to, I think some companies don't like to hear from their customers. We really do. We really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that case, I apologize to the rest of the engineering crew. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, all of them.
Not just Mateo.
Yeah, no.
He's very humble, so take the
I'll learn to take the compliment. Thank you. But Tristan in chat saying, oh, he should use a bathtub to collect all the parts coming off the Quinly. And
it's funny you say that. We have like a box that we definitely didn't get.
Oh yeah, let me. I've actually got a photo.
It was overflowing.
Yeah.
Oh really?
It was overflowing. Like there was parts that would fall into the bucket and then fall off, and we're like, now what do we do?
You should. Kentucky was using a giant trash bin to collect all the parts, which I thought was hilarious.
That's awesome.
Like it works.
On their live stream, they had this massive industrial university-sized garbage pail. It was like,
that's pretty cool. I thought it was funny.
We actually 3D printed this garbage can that I really wanted to use, but we've already used it as a garbage can, so it's not exactly pristine condition.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to dump this
dump new parts in there.
But we have this garbage can. It's like 4 feet tall.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge.
A lot of our vases end up being used as like discarded string storage for sure. But yeah, speaking of like on the bathtub thing, we did want to film a video of the Quinly printing a ton of benchies and dropping them into a bathtub. But we can figure out how to do it. Around. Yeah, have them float around, do a time lapse.
Interchange benchies with like a rubber duck or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you could be like 2 benchies to 1 rubber duck ratio. Yeah. I think that's perfect.
Could have like a whole armada of shit and ducks floating around in there.
We could have them all. We could have them all different sizes. We could do some. Like you do some female ducks, some male ducks, like maybe something a little bit different.
Have to get Dominic to convince him to donate his bathtub to the cause. he was the one doing our videos.
Oh yeah. That's funny actually.
Yeah.
have a little fleet.
Yeah, small like navy. We've actually gone over time, but there's still quite a bit of people in chat. So I know if anyone else has questions, or I don't know how you guys are on time.
I don't know. Might have to get going a little bit shortly, but
sure, we can start to wrap it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can't exactly be here till midnight, you know.
Yeah, that's true. You guys are an hour ahead.
Yeah, we're
yeah. Yeah, it's probably been a long day because I know you guys are super, super busy. So we really appreciate you.
Yeah.
We love the opportunity.
Yeah, it was lovely chatting to you guys, and like again, I think just like your feedback, especially since you guys were betaing it back in November, but just the community feedback in general, I think has been the best thing in terms of product development like ever. We know like what's awesome about the guys we're reaching, the people we're reaching right now with the kit is they're all super excited about being the first ones to get it. And I think it's kind of unique to the 3D printing community, but no one's going to hesitate to give you feedback on anything, whether it's good or whether it's bad. They'll give you like the most detailed feedback you could possibly ask for, which has been like really amazing in terms of just getting Quinly to a spot that works for everyone. And like, I know I can't talk about this, but like our software, our like software tickets, we've got I think well over 150 features already outlined and defined for what we want to put in, and a lot of those are thanks to the feedback we've gotten and like workflow. Yeah.
No,
and,
which can I just say before we completely wind up here, it does address a question we get all the time. People want to know why there's a subscription fee for the software. That's why.
That's why.
Just let you know, it is living software. We don't just plunk it on and leave it. Like there's a lot of stuff coming, and we know that people are going to keep modding these printers. And the fact is, you know, your firmware changes all the time. So that is a question. I'm sure you guys will get into those discussions with customers. They're like, well, why is there a fee? Because people see it as a separate printer, but it, again, really isn't, right? It's automation. It's I say it's like having, for $7.99 a month, that's $7.99, by the way, not 700. And that's like having an assistant for like a penny an hour, right? For a month.
Yeah, considering it's going to free up like many of your hours every month, then yeah, it's well worth it. Well, we think obviously, but just looking at the repayment time, like if it saves you half an hour, that's already it's pretty much paid itself off, and we can guarantee.
I was just gonna say, just the thought of being able to go home on Saturday and not have to start your print. Not have to
exactly.
print. Yeah.
I'm
sold. I'm there.
Sold on that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think just to wrap up, like, thank you guys again for coming on and talking about your experience with it. And I know we're always calling back and forth anyway, but I think it is valuable for people to hear like how I guess from an outside source how it's been working for you and what you guys like about it.
Yeah. It's actually been awesome to chat with you guys here. I mean, obviously a lot of valuable information getting tossed back and forth. So we won't tell us your secrets. So I'm waiting patiently for that. But
waiting patiently. Next stream.
I'm the only one, but we're waiting.
Yeah, of course. Cool. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Any last? Not last words. Any final thoughts, Steph?
I was gonna say, feels like
I'm gonna think about the phrasing a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, just as a wrap up cue, I guess. I mean, like it's kind of really, really slick.
I mean, and the longer we have it, the more we appreciate it, for sure. Like,
yeah, and I think actually that's a really good way to kind of, you know, put a capitalization on what it is like, yeah, the more you have it, the more you kind of slowly fall in love with it, and it's been nothing.
That seems to be the experience. Once people start using it, they realize it. Yeah, that's something we'll have to keep working towards to make it more explicit. But yeah, maybe repeat again for everyone where they can find you guys and your store.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody local in the Edmonton area, come find us. Our address and everything's on our website. So you can go to RepRapWarehouse.com. You guys need anything from printers, filament, parts. You just want to look at our website because it's got nice colors. You want you want Lukas to work on your printer because you got mad and started ripping wires. Don't worry, we've all been there.
I've seen a lot of it.
Anything like that, just give us a call. But yeah, RepRapWarehouse.com, guys. You can find us there.
Yeah, it's an awesome shop, and if you're looking for Quinly stuff, shop.3dq.com. It's in the description. It's in our channel, and please join our Discord if you want to talk to any of the staff. We're all online there. Ask us questions. Feedback is always welcome. Very appreciated. Yeah,
I can definitely vouch for them being helpful. I know we've had a lot of back and forth when we were the beta
customer
crew.
service. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just want to get you. Our main goal is to have you running and not have to touch your printer anymore. So the faster we can make that happen, the more value you get out of the kit.
100%.
Cool. All right. Thanks for talking with us. Steph, do you know when the next stream is?
No, we better book that. I think it'll be a couple of weeks, and we've got a whole bunch of mods coming out for the Mod Mondays. So watch social media, and we'll let people know on social.
Great.
Yeah. So yeah, just keep an eye out. Turn on notifications for the channel. We'll be streaming on YouTube from now on. And keep an eye out. Every Monday we'll be doing like a blog post about mods for your Ender 3, but also mods that can actually improve the reliability of your printer and improve the output of your automation with Quinly. So that all being said, thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.